Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Three. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm super fired up to have you guys join us today. This is part two, and this young guy, he's not a guy, he's an adult, but he's 22, and he's done so much. I was just telling him before the show, he's done so much in his 22 years. I've talked to 56-year-olds that have done half the stuff that he's done, and you know what? He has a joy doing it. We also dedicated this podcast exploring the idea of that servant's heart. How can you implement that in your work and your life to make an impact and change? Also, too, we're bringing guests on. Like my guest today is going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to do good things, that things are possible, that, you know what, motivate you to get your butt off the chair and do some good things out there. I want to thank my sponsor as well, Pantheon. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders who are growing this thought leader platform to impact and change the world, but also help you grow your business. For more information, there'll be a link in the show notes where you can reach out to me and I'll get you all the information. With that being said, imagine you younger or older people when you were 22. I think back when I was 22, I thought I was going to be a pro football player. Of course, I never made it because I was 5'8" and 150 pounds. They don't take pro football players. But my guest today at 22 has done so much. Let's bring him on today. Harrison, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, it's good to be back.
You said something very interesting before the show. He says, you have a lot of energy, so might as well put to it to my ventures. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it honestly comes from probably a place of fear. If you dig really deep, I don't want to be sitting on a deathbed, with regrets. That sounds like probably the worst way you could end, your life could end is you're just sitting there, all the regrets flying through your head. So I want to make sure I can get as much done as possible. And there's a legacy aspect of it too. My parents were amazing. They're still around. They are amazing people. They raised me really well. And I think my responsibility with having that kind of childhood and that upbringing that not everybody else gets is to make the most of that. And and try and, put some good back out into the world, support my family, and just do what's highest and best with my time and energy. So
True servant's heart gives shout out to his parents. What's your parents' name? First names?
Jim and Sierra. Yep.
Jim and Sierra, shout out to you because you have a wonderful young man. You said something interesting, and I talked to a lot of older people about, I'm 63. Oh, I'm closer to the death than probably you are, but no regrets. What would you tell somebody under 40 going, Harris, what the hell are you talking about? You got 80, 90 years to live or whatever. Why have that attitude?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing, I talk to my wife about this all the time. We actually have some little arguments about it because I'm like, you need to hurry up with certain things. My biggest thing is time to action. I think that's huge because, I have a business and I'm writing books all the time. I'm doing all this different stuff. And that's not necessarily the stuff I'm going to be doing in 30 years or the things I'm going to be getting done. But I think my time to action is so fast. I'm able to decide, hey, I really like doing this, I'm going to keep doing it. Or, hey, I don't like doing this, I'm going to pivot. And so having that fast time to action, that kind of helps me, I feel like I'm getting to try everything, right? Or get to experience different things and decide hey, I don't like doing this kind of work, or I don't like having this kind of business, or I don't like running my business this way. So, we're just going to change quick instead of, kind of well, maybe we'll just sit and we'll see, maybe it'll get better. Or so having that time to action thing, that really quick time from you get an idea, you decide yes or no, and you either go for it or you don't. That really helps. I don't know, that helps kind of facilitate more options in life. I feel like I've accomplished a lot, and I'm right where I need to be almost all the time, just because I know that I'm not leaving time on the table, or I'm not leaving, opportunities on the table that, but there are things that maybe this isn't good for me right now. It's a great opportunity. It's just not what I need to be doing right now. That's different than, missing out on something because you weren't able to make that jump. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely, trying to get those things under my belt as fast as possible, so that I, understand what I want to live for, understand what I want to pursue, in the real long term.
You talked about the future, which is
Yeah.
interesting from a 22-year-old. I'm going to keep bringing that to that because this is for
Yeah.
everybody, whether you're 60, 20, 40. Future is important. You need to think about that. Why is it? What would
Yeah.
you tell somebody that's 25 that has a business? Why should they think about the future?
Well, you're going to be there soon, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's kind of the way I think of it, is like,
Yeah.
hopefully, Lord willing, I make it, I'll be 40 one day, right? So I can be 40, having grown a business for 20 years, having written books for 20 years, or I can be 40 with no business and no books. And I don't, those two things specifically, like I'd rather be 40 with the business and the books. And that's just a really simplistic way to look at it. But, I think, I think if you just sit and, building businesses and writing books and whatever you want to fill that blank with, that's not for everybody. So, but there is something that you should be doing with your time, that's fulfilling to you, and that will be fulfilling to your future self as well. Um, and for some people, that's building a career, that's working really hard, in the workplace you're at, and building a good reputation for yourself and your name. That's really important. And for other people, it's building a business, or maybe it's pursuing an art hobby on the side. But all those things, you're going to be at your future regardless, and you might as well have at least a really strong foothold into what you want to be doing at that time now, as opposed to waiting and waking up, like you said, in 20 years when you're 40, or 20 years when you're 60, or 20 years when you're 80, and saying, man, it would have been great if I would have started 20 years ago. That again, that's also a pretty scary thought to have. Like, man, I wish I would have started, instead of just actually, making that initial jump.
You're a smart kid, so I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Okay.
What excites you more? Now, audience, this is a guy who's written 3 books in the last 3 years. 3 books. He's 22. I know 50-year-olds have been talking for 20 years to write a book. We'll talk about his future book coming here. He also owns a business in the health club industry so you own your business. What excites you more when you get up in the morning? Working on your book or working on your business?
Oh, I mean, that's actually a pretty easy question. It's definitely working on the books.
Okay.
So I have passion for my business. I love doing that. I love, I'm really, it's a great service for a lot of these smaller gyms, a lot of these places that aren't necessarily able to kind of keep up with the level of, paying high paying vendors, as like some of the other bigger chains. So it's a great business to have. It's very helpful. But I like my sole passion, and when I say soul, it's SOUL. The passion of my soul is writing these books. When I sit down and I get 2 hours of good writing in, like I feel amazing for a couple days. Like it's just a beautiful thing. I love, the only thing that I probably enjoy doing more than writing is sailing boats. And so I live in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee right now. We're landlocked. There's no sailing going on, so I just got to be writing. And I absolutely love it. My wife even notices a difference. Like, the days that I don't get my writing in, or the days the writing doesn't go well, there's a little bit of a personality difference versus the days where things go really well. And I'm just laying words down. I get 10 pages out in 2 hours, and it's amazing. So to answer the question, it's definitely the books. That's my passion. You could, I'll always write, no matter what my resources are, no matter, even if I'm not publishing, there'll always be manuscripts on my computer or in my notebook. It's just something I'm going to do forever. So,
Man, I love that because the book part, you're passionate, but you still have your business. You're not
yeah,
like, because people will start writing books, not make any money, and go, I'm broke. Well, go
yeah,
get a job or start a business or
yeah,
whatever, right? Pay
yeah.
your bills to get you going. So let me ask you this question.
Okay.
It might not be tough for you. So you put a book out there. Say this
Yep.
book we'll talk about in a minute, and it comes out in July, makes you $30 million.
Yeah.
what would you do with your business?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd probably sell it.
Yeah.
Again, depends on finding the right person to buy it, right? Because your
Yeah,
name
sure.
is associated, all that. So let's say we find a great person to buy it. I would probably sell it. I'd definitely sell the business and focus on my writing. Um, I think that would be that me personally, and for my wife and I think that would be a really beautiful life if we were able to live where we wanted to live. I was able to do what I needed to do. I tell you what, if I had the $30 million like from my book, I would be living on a lake with about 20 acres and a shop, and I'd be working on sailboats, and I'd be repairing and selling sailboats at a loss. That would be my day to day, and then I'd also be writing. So my lifestyle would definitely change quite a bit. But I think yeah, like I love the business. It's just not my sole passion, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And
Yeah.
that's a great answer that you just gave
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be. It's paying your bills.
Yeah,
You like what you're doing. You don't get up in the
exactly.
morning and go, oh God, I've got to fix another piece of equipment,
Right.
or you got to handle a staff situation, whatever it may be. And it's funny, you went back to full circle. You went, okay, I'll
Yeah.
live on the lake, keep writing
Yeah.
books, but I'll get another job. I'll start another company. That's a
Yeah.
lesson, audience, to think about. That's very, very,
Hey, I
very
got to
cool.
stay busy and working with my hands. Working like even now, if I want to break from life, I go out and work on the yard. So I'm one of those people that I really like just working with my hands, staying busy. It kind of keeps me from just, either doing something that's unproductive, like just sitting and watching TV. I just feel better mentally. It's kind of flushes out the brain if I can do some work with my hands. And so yeah, I think I'll always have some tools and some projects going on. So yeah.
There's a phrase, idle hands. I don't remember the phrase. Audience, you probably do, but that's exactly what you're saying about the idle
Yeah.
hands. I guess they can get you in trouble. We'll just leave it at
Yeah.
that. We'll say
Yeah.
that's the phrase. Jump in the book. Man, you've done 3 books. I was so fired up to have you in part one. Now you're
Yeah.
telling me in July, a new crime book's coming out. Well, I got to hear all
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, so I've actually done four. I didn't want to correct you earlier, but I've done four.
Correct me, please
So
do.
yeah, so the first one was Watch It Burn. That was a crime thriller focused on the mob in the 1980s. The second one was November's Whisper. That is the first book in a static series. This book that's coming out in July is the sequel to November's Whisper. So November's Whisper is about Henry Hayes, who's an FBI profiler in the 1980s. Goes around basically just a mobile investigator for the FBI. They support local investigations across the country. So that was book one of that series, and then I released a western called Amongst Thieves. And that was just paying homage to all the westerns I watched and read growing up as a kid, all the Louis L'Amour, all the High Chaparral, the Bonanza, all that stuff that I was able to absorb as a child. I just kind of put it out in that western, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. It wasn't super popular because westerns aren't super popular right
Yeah.
now, but that was one of those I had to kind of write and publish for myself. So, and then in December, right before Christmas of this past year, I released a Christmas novella called "So This Is Christmas," and it's just a short, about 100 pages, a story of an ex-con who gets out of prison the day before Christmas, and kind of what he ends up doing, after he'd been in for 10 years. And so now, coming up in July, I'm releasing Lake Country. You can kind of see the poster for it back here behind me. But that is the sequel to November's Whisper. And Lake Country is about Henry Hayes again, coming out to Minnesota, where there's been a string of murders that they've kind of put together. The state police has put together as being serial murderers. And yeah, he shows up and decides to help out shows up and helps out the local law enforcement, and supports that case. So it's another real interesting crime thriller coming out of my mind. And man, I love writing these ones, like the FBI crime thrillers, because when I get to do the research, I get to talk to all these interesting, amazing people. I get to travel for it too, so I'll go talk to people. And one of the guys was up in New Hampshire. The other guy was in Iowa. So I get to go travel and talk to these old investigators that are retired, and they're telling me about their careers, and that's amazing. I get to incorporate little pieces of that into the story. to kind of give it some personality. So it's not just like a procedural, story. It's got some character to it, from real life experiences, which I think is pretty neat. So
That is pretty darn cool. And the poster behind you, you listening on the podcast, you
yeah,
can't see it. It looks like a movie.
yeah,
To be
yeah,
honest, and
yeah,
side note, I'm going to help them produce one of these as a movie because there's a ton of movies that are like this that are so powerful and do so well because people love
yeah,
these crime thrillers. What's one thing you're proud of this newest book, Lake Country? Lake Country, right?
yeah.
Lake
Lake
Country.
Country. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think it's a little bit of there's an original aspect to it, just because most people, who are interested in, like, I'm interested in crime, or I'm interested in true crime or whatever. That's never really been my, I don't know, my interest, and I was kind of had a hard time fighting that genre of like, well, I'm not interested in the crime. Like, there are people out there who are really interested in like learning like exactly how someone got chopped up and put in a bucket. That's not really my, I don't know, like, I'm not really
Yeah.
that grotesque with my interests. But I figured out what I like is I'm fascinated by the investigation. So I'm an investigations fan. And I think there are a lot of people who are investigations fans as well that don't necessarily resonate with like the true crime, or like more like the gritty crime stories, because they're more interested in how these investigators work and how they put together these cases to come up with a solution to something that's like terrorizing the local area. Um, and so I'm really proud of the way I was able to kind of put this together and use Henry as a window into this local investigator, and kind of how he's handling things, how he's dealing with stuff in his personal life. There is a big, I would say more so than November's Whisper, this one focuses on the investigator's personal life in Minnesota. November's Whisper was in Boston. And it kind of shows how over time these investigations really change you, and really turn you into a completely different person, whether good, bad, or ugly. It's kind of one of those things, you can't really escape it. You're always thinking about these investigations you're a part of. You're always pushing back and fighting some of these terrible thoughts. And I think I did a pretty good job of showing what it's like to work on one of these cases, where you just kind of always feel like you're 3 inches below the waterline. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really cool. What emotion, because books are emotional. I
right.
read books and they can bring out certain emotions. What kind of emotion you think Lake Country will bring out of people when they read it?
Oh, that's a good question. There's definitely going to be parts where you're not going to want to go to bed right after reading
Mhm.
certain chapters. There are some frightening elements in there, which I think is makes it exciting, right? That's where the thrilling piece comes in. I think there's a lot of anger in the book, and that's from the perspective of the local investigator, because and that stems from frustration. There's a lot of problems with red tape. There's a lot of problems with interference. There's a lot of problems with obstruction, and those things really make him upset. They make his life harder, and they ultimately cost more victims. And this becomes kind of a pattern of like, um, I don't know, anger seems like too simple of a word, but basically, there's a lot of frustration. And then finally, like we said, 3 inches below the waterline, and then finally at the end you break through, and there's a clean finish, and everything feels good. So there's the frustration that keeps pulling you back in, because you like sitting in the frustration with this character because you empathize with him. And then at the end of the book, you get that clean, satisfactory ending. And yeah, you're able to close it, put it down, and say, "Man, that was worth reading." So
That's what I love to hear. Because
yeah,
that's what books are. They're entertainment, just not in the
absolutely,
video form. They're in the reading form.
yeah,
What tip would you give a possible author, somebody's thinking about this, and whatever age, because it doesn't matter whether you're 60, 22, or
yeah,
45.
right, yeah,
What's going to take them over the edge? Because I know a lot of people, and I've said that I'm writing a book and I'm still having
yeah,
time to do it. What would you tell
yeah.
me to get going?
Oh man, my mom was kind of in the same position. She runs a business, where she does like financial coaching for small boutique businesses, and she was like, "I'm going to write a book, but I'm going to wait to start until we're on this trip, so then I can have dedicated time." And I told her, I was like, "Mom, you just need to start right now." and she actually finished it. Was a short book, it was a short business book, but she finished it before they actually went on that trip. So there are things like that where that's my biggest thing is just start. It sounds super simple and it sounds kind of like a cop out, but it's really not. Like it's really just about just starting. And I still apply that to myself, even though I'm four, almost five books in. When I'm writing and I hit the end, on the draft, and I send it to my editor, that same day I open up a new Word document and I start the next story because I have the stories ready to go. Some people don't have that blessing where the stories are just queued up and ready to go. But I do, and so I take advantage of that and I open up the Word document and I start the next book to make sure that there's no leg, like we had talked about earlier, time to action, making sure that we're getting things done when we need to get them done. So just starting is huge. Also just setting aside some time. I hear from a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I've got no time. I've got absolutely no time right now. Stanley Cup playoff season. I'm a big hockey fan, and I'm like, I got no time, but somehow I'm watching 2 hours of hockey every night, right? So everybody's guilty of that, where it's like, I've got absolutely no time, but I'm gonna watch a team I don't really care about, play another team I don't really care about, and for 2 hours. So you do have time, even if you're super busy. I'm not the busiest person in the world, and but I'm still able to find time, even though, and there are people out there that genuinely, like, there's just too many distractions, and some things that are good things are also distractions. Like, I was talking to one of my friends who's like, well, I'm walking my dog, like I gotta walk my dog all the time, and I was like, well, how often? Like, and he's like, I walk my dog 4 times a day for an hour, and I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I have a dog.
Jeez.
I walk him once a day for an hour, and he's pretty happy with that. So, there are things like that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Or like, guys that, like, I love working out, hitting the gym. Sometimes I got to cut my workouts a little bit short because I've got
Yeah.
other things going on. So there are distractions that aren't necessarily bad things. They just get in the way of other things you want to prioritize. So it's all about prioritizing. I would never tell you to, like, put writing your book in front of taking care of your family, or spending time with kids or anything like that. But there, if you can find an hour, if you can find 45 minutes, just try and get a really good page or a really good couple pages down. All of a sudden, in a few months you've got a book. um, that's always, what I tell people is 1-2 pages a day, you'll have a book in like 3 months. Especially if you're real consistent with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, just get started. And then once you're started, keep going. Don't let it lapse. Try to stick with it. Try to be as consistent as possible. And yeah, I promise you'll have a book by the end of that process. So
Momentum. That's the thing you're
yeah.
talking about. But the one a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever that is the momentum,
Yeah.
twice a week for,
Right.
whatever it is. Somebody's asked me this question after our first show. People
Okay.
watched it and
Yeah.
they wanted to know. I don't think I asked you part one. How has writing books changed you, Harrison?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I started writing when I was 16. I was 16 when COVID kicked off, about to turn 17. And there was nothing to do. I've told this story a million times. I ran out of Xbox games to play. And I'd always been creative and I wanted to start, writing. So I started, and decided I loved it, and I kept going. I published my first book when I was 18, independently published. Um, but I think the way it's changed me over that time, I mean, it's been, a good chunk of my life, 6 years. I'm 22, so that's a pretty solid portion of
Yeah.
of my life. It's been my whole adult life. And I think the way it's changed me, well, first of all, I'm kind of weird with, like, daydreaming and stuff. I'm always thinking about stories. I get lost in that. So it's definitely done that. But I think it's also just, it's given me something, like, it's a big goal. Like you're talking about selling the book for $30 million and doing whatever you need to do, to set your life up in the way that you want to live it. Um, that's a really big goal, and it's a really tall order to become a very popular, world famous author, if you will, if that's what you're looking for. So that's nice. It's a big thing that I can chase after. And then it's also a beautiful art form because it's concrete. You can share it with everybody. Most everyone can read, so you're able to kind of share your long art form with other people. Now the frustrating part is when you spend 6 months writing a book and you send it to somebody, they read it in a day. I'm like, come on, at least take a couple days. It took me forever, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think being able to share, um, because the stuff in these books, it's 100% from my mind. So it's almost a release valve, a little bit of a vulnerability. You're putting stuff out there. Maybe you have some edgy characters that are like, man, that came from me too. And I think all that's healthy. It keeps you humble because you're showing other people your work. And yeah, I think the biggest thing it's done for me is just giving me a long-term goal to chase after, a project to always be working on, something to kind of always look up to and follow. And I think that'll continue no matter how successful the books get, because there's always another level. And then you get to the point where you're really just trying to write the best thing that's ever been written, and you'll never accomplish that because it's a subjective goal. But I think that kind of just being almost unreachable is a really beautiful thing, and that's helped me in personal development. It's helped me prioritize things in my life. Um, yeah. Oh,
Amazing, amazing guy you are. This is
thanks.
get these books. We'll let you know how to get them here in a minute. I'm not going to ask you my restaurant question because I think I asked you that before. But if
Yeah.
there's one person alive right now that you can meet, spend an hour with, and learn from and mentor you, who would you want to meet?
Ooh, one person alive right now. Hmm. Man, that's a good question. Um, I think I think Dennis Lehane. Dennis Lehane's a really good writer. Um, he's a really, really good literary fiction writer. Like Stephen King takes notes from Dennis Lehane. That's how
Wow.
good he is. He's not necessarily as popular as Stephen King, but he wrote Shutter Island, Gone Baby Gone. He wrote Mystic River, which everyone's heard of, or they've at least seen the movie with Sean Penn. So he's a brilliant writer. Um, yeah, I think I could learn a lot from him. And he's my favorite literary fiction writer that's alive. John Steinbeck would be my favorite. That's he's passed away, but yeah, Dennis Lehane would be a very interesting person to talk to, especially since he's really stoic. I feel like it'd be hard to have a conversation with him, but it'd be pretty rewarding if you could yeah, talk to him
Ask a
and
few
and
questions. Oh,
pick his
yeah.
brain. Yeah,
Well, let me
yeah.
see what I can do. I always like to put that stuff out there. You never know. I'm going to see
Yeah,
my
yeah,
network,
yeah.
get
Dennis
you
Lehane, if
connected.
if you want to meet up with a young author, I'll fly out to
You're
Boston
open.
and
See,
yeah, we get dinner wherever you want.
I love it. I love it. Where can people get your books? Tell us when the new book's coming out, name of the book.
Yep. Yeah, so the new book coming out is Lake Country. It's going to come out towards the end of July. We don't have a concrete date set yet, but it's going to be that last 2 weeks of July. That information will be up on my website soon. My website is officialharrisonstockland.com. And you can find my books, the reviews, and all my podcast appearances are on there. And if you want to find my books, they're all sold through Amazon. So you just have to go to Amazon. And if you type in my name, Harrison Stockland, Stockland is Stockkeland. If you type in my name on Amazon, my author profile will come up. You can find all my books on there. They'll get to you in like 2 days. And if you hit follow on the author profile, it'll let you know when my new stuff is coming out, or if we're having any sales or anything like that. Um, if you're a Kindle reader, my books are free on Kindle most of the time. They rotate in and out of the Kindle Unlimited program. But yeah, it's they're all over the place. The only thing we don't have yet is audio, but we're working on that. We're gonna get some audiobooks here soon. So
There you go. Well, I read November's Whisper, audience, and I can't wait to Lake Country because I got to read the sequel.
awesome,
I'm excited to see
awesome.
where Henry goes from there.
Yeah,
It's a great
yep.
book, by the way. Kid's 22 going on 70. I'm going to tell you right now, he's got an old spirit.
Thank you. Yeah.
Harrison, thanks again for being on, taking the time, and just giving us some great wisdom. Audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and here's why. You might know somebody who wants to write a book, or a young person who wants to start a business. I would share this link about what Harrison talked about today, did, and is doing, because I'm motivated. I'm 63. I can't wait to get off here and start working on my book. So
Yeah, there you go.
working on their
Start
book,
today.
start today. Like he said, start working on it today. You don't have to finish tomorrow. I think that's part of the problem. People are like, it takes too long. Hey, if it takes 6 months, it takes 6 years, it doesn't matter. Work on it. Just do it. Nike, you can sponsor me anytime. Let's put it out there. With that being said, me and Harrison want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.